Hi, friends. Well, today we are going to talk about self-regulation through self-attunement. And so what does this mean? Well, self-regulation is about how we regulate our emotions, our feelings, and our behaviors. And then self-attunement is how do we align that then with ourselves? How do we care for ourselves while we're having these feelings, instead of judging and pushing ourselves away? So that's what we're going to talk about. If that sounds good, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Kathy Weens. I'm a coach, counselor, author, and educator. But my primary practice is as a women's empowerment and trauma recovery coach. I help women find their strengths and their value in life. Yes, sometimes we need to look at past traumas, but you know what? We do not need to focus on those things. We can move on from past traumas. And I know it's true because I have done that myself. So that's my passion, is helping women like me in the second half of life overcome those past traumas and find your strengths, your value, and your purpose in life. And what we're going to be talking about today is part of doing that. How do we manage our emotions? All right, let's get started. So self-regulation through self-attunement involves, it's a powerful approach to managing our emotions and our thoughts and our behaviors. Self-attunement involves being deeply aware of our internal state, of our emotions, our bodily sensations, and our thoughts without judgment. That's an important piece of it. Okay, from this place of awareness, we can respond to ourselves and to others with kindness. And this is going to help us be more regulated. And so I am going to share with you 5 ways that we can do that. Okay, so the first one is we're going to gain self-regulation through self-attunement through cultivating awareness. And that's such an important thing to do no matter what we are dealing with. We need to just pause and be aware of what is happening, because so often, we're just doing things, we're going, life is busy, and we don't even stop and think about what we are feeling and how it is affecting us. So awareness is the first step, and it's so important. Now, one way that we can self-regulate is to calm down our mind, to calm down our central nervous system. I've talked in other videos about the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the one that gets ramped up, and when we have high emotion, that can get really ramped up. But the parasympathetic nervous system is what helps calm us down. And one really powerful way to engage the parasympathetic nervous system is through meditation. So just pausing, doesn't have to be a real formal, meditation practice, but just pausing, breathing deeply, and giving yourself maybe as little as 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes. If you have 15 minutes, that's great. But just pausing and letting your body calm down. That's going to help us so much in our awareness of our emotions and what we're feeling. And we can also do this, regularly throughout the day. A counselor I was visiting with recently said, set a timer. And she said, too, it was very interesting, at different times of the day, not just like at 10, 12, 2, and 4, but maybe at 10:36 and 12:42, different things like that, different times. I think that kind of just shakes up our brain so that it's not so organized, and that might help us respond in a different way if it's something different. So anyway, that's just a tip if you are checking in with yourself regularly. But that's important to do. If you want to do it on a regular time, that's okay too. Whatever works for you. But throughout the day, to just pause and think about, what am I feeling? And how can I just calm down. Where is that feeling coming from? How can I work with it? Where do I feel it in my body? What am I feeling right now? And then to think about, what do I need right now? So this is all part of being aware. And then the next thing that we're going to do is to name and validate those emotions. So we become aware of the emotions, we become aware of what we are feeling, and then we're going to validate. So we're going to identify what we're feeling. Label your emotions as much as you can. For example, you may say, I'm feeling upset. Or you might say, I'm feeling frustrated. Or I'm feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you're feeling sad or you're feeling scared. So just pausing and being aware of that, naming what you are feeling, just the practice of doing that pausing and naming it is a way to validate it. And that helps to reduce the intensity of the emotion. And that, of course, is one way that we can self-regulate. And then once we've identified that emotion, a way we can validate it is to say, it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling overwhelmed. Everybody feels overwhelmed. So be kind to yourself, just to validate, to recognize what you're feeling, to not try and suppress that emotion or push it away, but just say, yep, this is how I'm feeling right now. And to certainly not judge yourself for having that feeling. That's really important. Remember, we're trying to attune with ourselves, not judge ourselves and try and push things away. Okay, so that's another one. That's the second one. And the third one is to tap into our physical sensations. Now, for me, this has been a really hard one to do. I'm mostly from the neck on up. This is where I live. I think a lot, and so I don't often get into my body. But that's a really important thing to do. So when we're dealing with our emotions, to think about, where do we feel that sensation in our body? Where is it showing up for us physically? Is it a tightness in our stomach? Is our heart racing? Is our stomach churning? Do we feel a pain in another area of our body? Where do we feel that? And then we can again use breathing to calm that down. So we validate it. We say, yeah, this is what I'm feeling. This is how it feels in my body. And then breathe to calm it down. Another thing that we can do is we can use our five senses, or use some grounding techniques. One of those is to use the five senses. I mentioned that in another video, and that's where we want to just make sure we are in the present moment. That's part of being mindful, is to be in the present moment, because these emotions, the anxiety, fear, overwhelm, that takes us out of the present moment, and maybe we're going into the past and reliving something, or we're worrying about the future, what's going to happen. But we want to bring us back into the present moment. That's how we can self-regulate. And so using breathing can help us to do that. Okay, and we've talked about that before. And so a grounding technique that we can use to help calm our body down, to help calm down those physical sensations, are it's using our five senses. And I pulled it up on my phone because I wanted to get it right. So first, we identify five things that we can see. So we look around the room and we find five things that are in the room. Again, that's bringing us back into this present moment, into the physical space where you're at. And then we identify four things that we can touch. If you're sitting in a chair, your bottom is touching the chair, your feet are touching the floor. So what are four things that we can touch? And then three things that you hear, two things that you can smell, and then if there's any kind of taste, maybe one thing that you can taste. Okay? So that's a way, a grounding technique, to use your five senses to bring you back into the present moment. And then the fourth technique of self-regulation and self-attunement is to practice self-compassion. And this is such an important one. I did a whole class on self-compassion, and I have some other videos on it. So this is a really important one. And the first thing that we need to do, and this again helps to calm us down, helps to self-regulate us, is to be kind to ourselves. Again, we don't want to have that harsh judgment and be unkind to ourselves, but we want to be kind to ourselves. And one way to do that is to think about, if a friend was telling me about something she was feeling or an emotion she was having, how would I respond to that person? Usually it's with kindness, it's with care, it's with support. And so we need to give that to ourselves. So that's part of self-compassion. We want to respond gently to ourselves. And another thing that we can do is just, I like this exercise. You put your hand over your heart, breathe deeply, and say, what do I need right now? It's caring for yourself. It's having compassion for yourself. And so thinking about that, what do I need? Do I need to take a break? Do I need to get a drink of water? Do I need to take a walk? What do I need? And then honoring that need. And then the last and the fifth idea is to adjust your response to the emotion. Now, something that I learned early on in my healing journey is that if my response to a situation was too big for the situation. So an example of this is, your partner leaves towels, underwears, dirty dishes, something leaves that. Maybe they leave towels or underwear on the floor. And so that's kind of an irritating thing. But if your response is, I got to get a divorce, but I'm done, I'm breaking up with this person, that's a big response to kind of a little thing. So I think that's an important thing to think about when we are wanting to adjust our emotion. So is the emotion that I'm feeling proportionate to what's actually happening? So thinking about that. And when we do that, then we can choose how we're going to act. Okay? So we want to make sure that emotion is proportionate to what is happening. And then we can choose how we're going to act. So self-regulation is about acting in alignment with our values, with who we are, and not with those emotional impulses that we're having. And then another way that we can do this is to set boundaries. And so there might be two ways, there's many ways to do this, but we can set boundaries on ourselves or we can set boundaries on another person. And so two of the things that you could do is if there's a tense situation, your emotions are getting high, a boundary you could set is for you to just leave, to walk away. Another boundary that you could do is to tell the person, this doesn't feel comfortable to me. Would you please stop? And so making a boundary with that person. And maybe if they don't honor that boundary, then you could leave. But making sure that the emotional response that you have is not too big to the situation and also aligns with who you want to be. Now, sometimes we do need big emotions for certain situations, but we need to make that decision and not let our emotions take over and then we do something that we may regret later on. Okay? So those are the 5 things that we can do for self-alignment and self-attunement. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for watching, and please, if you like this video, like it, click the like button, subscribe, and share it. It really helps to get this information out to others. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.